All right, we'll start at 9:02. Give a few more minutes for more people to come in. All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful day. My name is Rita. I am the student representative at ISIAQ. Today, I will be hosting the webinar, moderating this webinar titled Mentorship at a Glance, Networking and Opportunities at Indoor Air 2024. We'll cover several topics today. We'll talk about the importance of mentorship, challenges of mentorship, especially in our field of indoor air, importance of networking, and share some tips of networking at a conference, and how do we maintain the relationship that we establish at the conference. And more importantly, we'll actually talk about some opportunities that we offer at the upcoming Indoor Air 2024 conference, and what do we offer at ISIAQ. We're lucky to have two amazing speakers today. Dr. Andrew Hoisington is the Early Career Event Director at Indoor Air 2024, and Dr. Sarah Haig, who is the IA 2024 Mentoring and Networking Lunch Director. Next, so just a little bit of a refresher on what's actually coming up. So the Indoor Air 2024 will be held at the beautiful Hawaii Convention Center on July 7th through 11th. If you haven't registered yet, I strongly recommend you do so. The QR code is on the screen. Give you 5 seconds to actually scan it. And there's no better way to actually get out of the lab and actually present your hard work, connect with people, and more importantly, have fun and learn. Next. And if you can't make it, that's totally fine. We do have a remote track available. You will have access to all the recording in person, like in-person talks, plenaries, and also you can present your poster and presentations online as well. Next, I do want to share that we have a discounted rate for hotels, the Courtyard Marriott, and it's only 5 minutes drive, 20 minutes walk from where the conference is held. And more importantly, it's close to all the fun stuff as well. So once you register to the conference, the discounted code will be available for you. So make sure you check them out. Next, right there. And I would also like to share an amazing opportunities here. There is a master class or summer school will be held on July 7th, the Sunday before the day before the conference actually started. And there will be two amazing sessions. In the morning, there will be a session topics, next generation indoor air quality monitoring, and led by Professor Jeff Singo from the University of Toronto and Dr. Julian from the CTO from the Attune Corporation. In the afternoon, we'll have a session on the contemporary germicidal irradiation applications. And the session will be held by Dr. Dustin from the National Institute for Standard and Technology, NIST. So make sure you check them out. These infos are all available on the Indoor Air 2024 official website as well. Next. All right. Without further ado, let me introduce the two amazing speakers today. They're both fantastic and talented researchers and scientists. Dr. Andy Hoisington is a researcher with Rocky Mountain MRECC and University of Colorado. He was with Air Force for 21 years, and his research focused on human microbiome and mental health in built environment. Dr. Sarah Haig is an assistant professor at the University of Pittsburgh, and she has a wide range of research interests that includes environmental microbiology, chemistry, engineering, and public health. And just a reminder, before they give the talk, all the participants will be muted. If you have any question, type it in the chat box. We will have a Q&A session at the very end, and we would love to actually answer all your questions at the very end. Without further ado, the floor is yours, Andy.
Great, thanks, Rita. Appreciate the introductions. Next slide. So as mentioned, we want to talk about how ISIAQ and more specifically Indoor Air 2024, how you can use those to help you connect in the indoor sciences field. And that connection could be through a job, it could be through your mentorship opportunities, or it could be through the student organization. And so I thought I'd start with this quote out of an editorial by Dr. Rich Corsi, more known probably for his inexpensive air filters of recent, but really, if you haven't seen this article, it's a pretty good one. It's old, nine years old, and I think we're doing better. But he said, one might conclude that the indoor sciences are ripe for cross-disciplinary research. Yet indoor air scientists all too often work in narrow trenches, interacting primarily with those who have interacted with for years, content to dig more deeply into which they already have significant knowledge and unaware of the connections that their work may have to those who dig in other trenches. In these hidden connections lie opportunities for significant discoveries, new ways of solving problems, and in a nutshell, strong advancement of the indoor sciences. And so that's what really kind of the Rita and Sarah and I and many in ISIAQ and that are going to Indoor Air 2024 are really excited about, and hope that we can convince you that to be excited about it too. So next slide. So if we think about like kind of a traditional track, and you can pick whatever track you maybe have been on or are on right now. I chose environmental engineer because I'm an environmental engineer myself. And so we have like some kind of degree program. Oftentimes we have formal education. In this case, yeah, I can take formal classes in, for example, wastewater. I can determine if I like it or not. There's a historical precedence for a lot of job opportunities. And then I can, when I get done with my degree program, I can go out to industry, the government or nonprofit, or go academia and find a job. And so this is kind of, if you can put yourself here, you could pick out maybe many of these same characteristics. Next slide. But we find that indoor air science is a bit different. And so here in the middle, these are topic areas, and this is from the Indoor Air 2024. I put the percentages there. Those are the percentages that the first 700 or so people said is their primary interest. And so we have these topic areas, and that's not all inclusive. And then we have all of these different academic programs and academic degrees that all kind of feed into it and have people are working in these many fields. Again, it's not all inclusive. I just picked out some. And then at the end, we say, yes, we should all look for jobs in industry, government, nonprofit, or academia, but it doesn't set up well for that, or it's more challenging than maybe some other programs. And so that's one of the things that I've been working on to try to help some people out at Indoor Air 2024. And there's two opportunities specifically I'll talk about today. Next slide. So the first one, we have a lunch session on Monday at the conference. This is entitled Beyond the Classroom, Career Opportunities for Indoor Air Quality Scientists. And so really this is a panel discussion. I brought together people from different backgrounds, and they're going to give you a little bit of a discussion to start off, which focus on their lessons learned, what they've experienced, where they think growth will happen, what are the best practices when at least as they see it, and then we'll have an interactive discussion. So it's a 90-minute lunch, which includes time for you to grab your box lunch and get over here, And for this and the other opportunity, I want to make sure that it's also available. I know Hawaii is a long ways for some people, or maybe most people, so it's also available for remote attendees. So if you have any other questions, I think our emails will be in the chat, and I'm happy to talk about it. And next slide. The other opportunity that I wanted to try out, which I think is kind of again another first for Indoor Air 2024, is a Meet the Job Seekers poster session. And so this would be tentatively right now on the schedule as Tuesday afternoon. And so I'm hoping that people that have a few years left to go will be interested in participating in this. And just really your chance to present yourself and to the attendees. The Indoor Air 2024 board really did a great job and made sure that this opportunity does not affect any ability to present any scientific posters. So if you had a scientific poster, it would be moved from Thursday to another day. And again, really the poster, there's some information on the Indoor Air 2024 website, but really the poster here is kind of going to be the same format as the Indoor Airs to make it easier. But it's really focused more on you. So what kind of job are you seeking? What kind of employment information might you be interested in people knowing what's your educational background and your employment history? I would encourage people to have some publications, presentations, any kind of work that you've done, and you can talk about it. Right? So that's often important for researchers and scientists to explain their work, right? So have some little section where and it doesn't have to be super technical or super related to indoor air quality even, but somehow where you can explain the science that you've been working on. And then have a copy, either hard copy or electronic link for your resume or your CV was also encouraged. So again, happy to take more questions if anyone has about that in this meeting or an email. Next slide, please. So the other thing we wanted to talk about today, and Sarah is going to tell you more about the opportunities. I'm just going to talk about the idea here, is a mentorship programs and mentors and mentees. And so just I pulled out these popular kind of graphics, or at least what I thought, which maybe ages me, thinking about what are the mentor roles, the mentee roles. And then the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine says that mentorship is a professional working alliance in which individuals work together over time to support the personal and professional growth, development, and success of the regional partners, relational partners, through the provision of career and psychosocial support. And so it can look mentorship can look different for many people. And so I just wanted to go over some of that. Next slide. So there's different types of mentors, and if you go online or read articles about this or books, there's plenty of names, but this is kind of how I think about the primary types of mentors. You have your long-term advisor. That's kind of your traditional. It might be your PhD, your master's advisor, somebody that's been engaged in your career for many years or will be for many years. You also can think about a mentor like a short-term mentor. And short term, I think of that as something that's maybe to improve somebody's skill or a specific issue. For example, if I wanted help writing a CV, I've never written a CV, then I could seek out somebody to help me with that specific piece, right? It doesn't have to be a long-term relationship. It could be just for one thing. Sponsor is another category you'll see in terms of mentors. And really the sponsor is usually somebody pretty senior, not involved in the day-to-day or the week-to-week activities, but these are the people that you work with that can kind of help you in your career, advance your career. They're the ones that maybe open doors. So it's really important to have those type of people. Another one, I have a boss that's a connector, or I have had a boss that's a connector. And connectors are you'll know a connector because they're the types that always say, let me introduce you to this person. And so those are really important as you kind of develop your stable of mentors. A flash, you may be in some organizations that's become a popular term. And the idea here is, and usually it's organized, and you have a mentor that has specific knowledge And so instead of saying, well, I'm going to look at Google for a result, you can actually say, well, I don't know that R program as well, so I'm going to go to this list and ask somebody in my organization about R, for example. And then lastly, mentors don't have to be these kind of more senior old folks. They can be your peers, and they should be. I would encourage peer mentorship is really can be really strong and powerful. And then the other way you can think about it is again, you don't have to have one mentor. You can have many mentors, and I would encourage that. And you can think about career focused. And so this is a Harvard Business Review. They have a number of articles on mentorship. But I like this one, the idea that, especially if you're a student, thinking like, who do I need on my team to help launch my career, whatever that next step is. And then if you already have a job or already have a position, who's my cruise team? So kind of just helping me move along, maybe not quite as engaged. And then you can also think in different parts of your career, you might need to boost. So that might be you're looking for a different job or you're looking for a promotion. And so those people could be different as well. Next slide. And so as Rita mentioned, I've been in the Air Force for 21 years. I'm now working for the federal government. I've taught at the undergrad and graduate levels. And so these are kind of my lessons learned or things that I think are important for mentors and mentees. And I probably won't go through all of these in incredible detail because for timing, but first off is just the idea that mentors is a relationship that comes and goes. And so when you're locked into a mentor, that's not necessarily for any specific time period. It can go for a long time or it can go for a short time. The other thing, another thing is it's important when you find the right mentor, like that takes time. This is not something where you're going to go to Indoor Air 2024 and say, these are my 5 mentors when you leave. There's a relationship there. And it can be an organic relationship where you approach individuals and say, I'm interested in getting more help. It could be a more formal role. And one of the things I think is helpful for mentorship is to start off small. And I'll have that in the next slide. Communication is really important in any relationship and certainly is in mentorship, as well as trust. I would say that if you, or being a mentee, or you as a mentor, start to lose trust in that relationship, then things are definitely going to be bad. I've noticed that it's good to match energy levels. So if I am at a level where I'm really kind of working hard and trying to get lots done, it's helpful to me to reach out and talk to people that are also kind of in that same energy level. Just like a really good athlete is not a really good coach, a really good scientist does not necessarily mean they'll be a really good mentor. There's many reasons for that, but just be aware of that. And I've been fortunate enough to collaborate with a number of people, very smart individuals, and got mentorship outside of my primary field. And I think that's been invaluable. It's a very different perspective. And I've been fortunate to have that. So I'd encourage that. Peer mentorship, I already mentioned, is really great. And then lastly, if you believe and you follow that mentorship is mentors can come and go, then be careful on how you end mentorship relationships and don't end it negatively. Next slide. Oh, my final slide here, I just wanted to give some mentee tips because I know sometimes that can be hard to find a mentor. So first off is just, if you don't ask, you won't find them. And so I think many people are very willing to help you out. And I know that's true in ISIAQ and Indoor Air 2024. I see it on a daily basis. So if you find somebody that you think would be helpful for you for a specific thing, please ask them. They'll be, they might be busy. They might not be able to, they might be full of mentees, but you won't know if you don't ask. I believe also it's helpful to start off slow. So thinking about, what's 1 or 2 things I can do with a mentor and then build from there. Always honoring the time and commitment. Your mentor is likely busy. Communicating clearly, I already mentioned. But it's important to say, what do you want out of that mentor-mentee relationship? And I think that is something that in my discussions, either with my mentor or my mentees, we talk about that almost every time we visit. and just be very intentional about what are you expecting, and is this going in the way that you want it to go. I always appreciate from my mentees, we talk about suggestions and ideas. I always appreciate that when they come back and say they tried that, or that didn't work, or it did work, and we all learn from that, or both learn from that. I think it's important to be open-minded, willing to learn, proactive, forward thinker. It's always easier as a mentor if you have something on paper to work with, and if the mentee brings just a blank sheet of paper. As mentioned, you can seek other mentors, and I encourage that. And your mentor, whoever that is, if you have one now, is a great person to ask for other mentors and say, they have a lot of connections. And then lastly, I think we can't be afraid to walk away from mentees or mentors if you're a mentee. Sometimes it just won't work. And so sometimes it could be really, actually, I've seen it on a very negative side. So if that's the case, then you'd be done and you walk away and move on to the next mentor. But overall, I mean, this is finding a mentor, finding a mentee. Again, it's just a relationship. It's complex. And ISIAQ, though, is here to help. And with Indoor Air 2024, we hope you'll take advantage of some of the opportunities. So I'll turn it over to Sarah to talk about those in more detail.
Thanks, Andy. Can we move to the next slide, please? So as Andy really nicely articulated there, finding a mentor is really important, or mentors, because I completely agree with what Andy said. You should have multiple mentors. They should all be helping provide different things, whether that's, improving your knowledge, providing support in terms of career decisions, or where to develop or improve skills. But it can be, challenging to find mentors, which I think is something that we all have struggled with. Before I get into some of those challenges, I've mentioned just there, and Andy did a really great job also of talking about the value of finding mentors. But I just wanted to also mention that it can be really hard for mentors to find mentees. As Andy said, not everybody wants to be a mentor, but those of us who do sometimes struggle to find mentees just because we also find it difficult to reach out and recommend ourselves to people, right? So for the students who are on the call or listening after, just be mindful of the fact that we also, as mentors, sometimes find it hard to reach out. So if we think about challenges in general, as I said, there are many barriers to finding mentors and mentees. And really, because of that, we have worked to develop a few different opportunities at Indoor Air 24. And one of the ones that's going to be happening tentatively on Wednesday, the 10th of July, I'm going to just call for short Air Quality Allies. If we can move on to the next slide, please. So what this workshop or networking event is going to be about on at that lunchtime on the Wednesday is basically, if you are interested in this particular networking event, you will have been prompted, if you've already registered, or when you do come to register, you'll be prompted to complete a short survey. And based on answers to those surveys, basically what I'm going to do with my team is we're going to help pair potential mentors and mentees up. So potential mentors are going to have maybe 2 to 3 mentees that I'll identify, and then those groups will be set into tables of 8. For the first hour, I'm just going to let you guys chat. There'll be icebreaker questions on the tables to kind of help get the conversation going. In addition to that, in advance of the actual workshop, I will be emailing you to let you know what table you'll be at, and also give you a list of a few potential mentors or mentees in addition to that primary one that I've identified for you. Now, as Andy mentioned, it's really hard to make matches, right? I'm purely doing this based on your survey responses, but this is not going to account for personality differences, right? So, on paper, people might be great, but in reality, maybe just your energy levels don't match or your personality doesn't match, and that's fine, right? But hopefully, they can either recommend some other people to you, or you can look at the list that I've also provided to you and seek out speaking to some of those other potential mentors or mentees. So that'll kind of be the first hour. And then the remaining 30 minutes of this networking event will be either you can stay exactly where you were and keep talking. I'm not going to end good conversation. You can try and reach out and speak to some of those other mentors or mentees that I've identified for you. Or, and I would really strongly encourage this, that you sign up for the ISIAQ mentor mentee program, which Rita will talk about at the end today. And it's a really great, awesome opportunity for people to have a really official mentoring program and really help sort of direct how those relationships are going to be built. Can you move on to the next slide, please? All right. So just like mentoring, another really important skill in our professional arsenal is the ability to network. Um, and hopefully everybody has heard or knows at least one of these kind of phrases or adages on the slide right now. Probably the two best well known will be your network is your network worth, and it's not what you know, it's who you know. And basically, what all these come back to is the importance of networking. Next slide, please. So, networking, if we want to give a technical definition, is the development and maintenance of mutually valuable relationships. And there are some really important words there. You know, networking does not happen overnight. You have to build a network, but once you've built it, you have to maintain it, right? These are relationships, they're not just one-off events. Now, certain connections you make may die, if you like. They may not be fruitful, but other ones are going to require um, maintenance, right? You're going to have to keep building, and that can be, you know, following up with a quick LinkedIn chat message, an email. It could be numerous things, right? But you want to kind of nurture those relationships. Why do we want to do that? I think it's very clear, and Andy gave an awesome introduction to that quote by Rich, that, you know, indoor air the indoor air space is very, very diverse, right? It's very interdisciplinary. The days of being able to work in your specific area or domain are kind of behind us because the challenges that we have to deal with now are so complex. And especially if we think into the future with having to combat issues that come about due to climate change, we are going to have to start to work across disciplines much more. And this is why I think networking, not only within your area, but really broadening to interact with people outside is going to be super, super important. And just like any other skill, networking does take time, right? I am still learning how to be a good networker. I'm not going to say I'm a great networker. I'm good, but it's a skill that we can still all learn and improve on. And thankfully, there are a lot of really good books out there. There's Coursera courses, there's TED Ed videos out there also talking about how to improve your networking skills. Next slide. So why do we network? As I've said, it's to kind of improve skills, whether or not that's, you know, improve your knowledge in your area or outside of your area, but probably, certainly for many of the students on the call here, the most important or one of the biggest kind of advantages of building and having a good network is that it really can help advance your career. And I just pulled some quick stats for us here. So 85% of jobs are filled through personal connections. My my job, I'm not saying I got specifically because of who I know, but certainly the people I know recommended me for the position I have, and that really helped at least put my name on people's radar, right? And that's really important. 70% of professional hires in 2016 had at least one connection in the company that they went to work for, right? So it really is an element of who you know, right? Of course, you need to have great foundational knowledge and great skills, but to get that initial in, especially when such a high percentage of jobs are actually never even publicly advertised, right? Having that network is really important. And for me, my work, as Rita mentioned at the beginning, is really interdisciplinary. You know, I work with people from everything from rehabilitation science to community health practitioners to people who make sensors, right? And through that awesome network that I've made from, you know, conferences, various events, even in airport lobbies. It really has led to a lot of the awesome opportunities that I've been given. So opportunities like mold detection, optimized layout of a grocery store for COVID-19 came about from a very serendipitous conversation in an airport. And also thinking about how do we change building regulations and code when we think about exposures in basements. All things that I never initially thought I would ever do, but all came up through great conversations. And I mean, as I said, I'm still learning to improve my networking skills, but my three top tips for everybody are, first one is to develop a short and succinct pitch. So think about this as your elevator pitch. Really, you should be able to get across very quickly who you are, what you're passionate about, and what your skills are in kind of 2 to 3 minutes. This is really important because many of our initial interactions with people are really brief, and you want to make sure you leave a good impression that's clear. The second tip is take notes. What I mean by that is obviously not whip out a notebook in the middle of a conversation with somebody, but make sure after you've had a really good conversation with somebody that you actually, whether or not it's write down some notes on the back of an old-fashioned kind of business card, you make some notes on your phone, or you go away and you type up some really short notes, who the person is, where you met them, and briefly what your conversation was about. It might seem strange, but you might not meet somebody again for a year or 2 years, and it's really useful to have some way of being able to go up and speak to somebody and restart that conversation. And if you can show that you've remembered something from a previous conversation, that leads into my third top tip. It shows that you're a good listener, and it makes a huge difference. Now, being a good listener might seem a bit strange for a networking tool, but it is really, really important. And what I mean by being a good listener is be an active listener. Actually listen to what the person tells you and think about how you can either add to what they're telling you or how that can be integrated in with things that you're interested in. Hugely important skill, and a skill that needs to be developed. And there's some really good books out there if people are interested, and I'm happy to talk more about that if people have questions. Next slide, please. And then finally, just on to actually, how are we going to help facilitate building your network, either building that network within your area or helping you expand your network to include people who maybe have different skill sets or knowledge bases than yourself. And basically, this lunch on Thursday, the 11th, is hopefully going to help do that. We're calling it Air Quality Exchange. And it's going to be very similar in terms of structure to the mentoring lunch, based on survey responses that you guys complete. I'm going to assign people into tables of 8 to 10 people for the first 45 minutes, and you'll be grouped based on your responses. And then there's going to be discussion topics on those tables just to help direct conversation and see how things go. And that's going to help you take notes on who people are at your table, and then hopefully see, maybe there'll be some people at those tables that might even possibly be peer mentors for you. And then for the remaining 45 minutes, basically you can either stay at the table you've been assigned, or tables will all be given a specific discussion topic. And then everybody's free to move to whatever table they feel passionate about that topic on. And then I just wanted to end. It felt nice that Andy started with an awesome quote. I don't have maybe as great a quote, but I still like this quote by Henry Ford because I think it really encapsulates the importance of networking. So what Henry Ford said is coming together is the beginning. So, building your network is the first step. Keeping together is progress. And what that means is maintaining that network is super important. And as I said, that can be an email, it can be a quick hello, it can be a LinkedIn message, but that's important to kind of keep nurturing those relationships. And then eventually, after all that nurturing, you might be able to work together. And once you work together, you can actually move towards solving some pretty complex or wicked challenges. And that really is where success lies. So I think Henry Ford was ahead of his time in many respects. And I think this quote really nicely ends the importance of networking. And I'll pass it over to Rita now.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate the talk from both of you, and just looking back, and we had a talk a year ago regarding auto mentorship, and now everything's coming along together, and Dave too have been my mentors as well regarding to this. I'm very excited. And while you guys are typing up questions for both of them, next slide, we're talking about what exactly ISIAQ offers for mentorship and networking. So as Sarah briefly mentioned already, we do have a mentorship program. And the goal of this program is to actually connect early career scientists and students to other ISIAQ members that are more senior and or experienced in this field. And ISIAQ will pair up the mentors and mentee couples after the registrations and like through the website. And the registration usually runs from July to November each year. And the reason being that ISIAQ usually hosts two conferences each year. One is Indoor Air Conference in July, and one is Healthy Building Conference in November. And after you submit your registrations, we'll start pairing, like usually in October and December each year. And next slide, please. And as Sarah and Andy mentioned both, we know that there are challenges to actually maintain this mentorship and networking relationship that you establish. So we have some guidelines to actually help you through this process. And we encourage the mentors and mentees to meet quarterly for the duration of the program, which is a year. And you do have the freedom to actually continue this relationship after. And the goal, of course, throughout these sessions are to meet in person in the future ISIAQ conference, whether it's Healthy Buildings or Indoor Air. And ISIAQ will also help by hosting quarterly networking sessions as well via Zoom with specific topics and themes. And you're more than welcome to actually recommend any topics that you feel like, hey, this is what I think that I want to discuss right here. And next slide, just as a reminder, you do have to be an ISIAQ member to be involved in this program, and every details can be found on the website. After you sign in, all the sign up details and guidelines are available for you to review on there. And next slide right there. In addition, but beside the mentorship program, I would also like to share other networking platforms that we have. I started a ISIAQ Lincoln student group earlier last year. Well, no, a few months ago. And in this platform, we actually share amazing opportunities for students and early career scientists. And I highlight the student achievements at ISIAQ. And also, I love to hear direct feedback from you guys regarding how we can improve the student engagement in our communities. The QR code is right on the screen. Please scan and actually join to help us with community, to actually help students to be engaged with us more. And this is amazing platforms, and I'd love to see you guys over there. And next slide, please. And another amazing platform that just launched. This is the official launch right here. And I will post this on the Student Lincoln group as well. I'm starting at ISIAQ Indoor Air 2024 WhatsApp communities right here. And the goal, of course, is to actually connect people before the conference. And if this is your first time going to a conference, you might be scared. And you can have a conference buddy right there. And if you want to have a travel pal and reduce the travel costs, this is it. And if you go into the job poster sessions and you want to actually practice your pitch, or you want to have feedbacks on your posters or your talks, there you go. This is the platform for you. And I'm so excited to actually see. I just really want to actually communicate, help us actually connect together to actually maintain this networking or relationship that we establish on throughout the conference, or before the conference, or after the conference right here. So we're trying to actually do all the things that we can to help you have your mentorship and networking opportunities in ISIAQ. So if you have any feedbacks or suggestions, feel free to do so. And this is everything on my end. If there's any questions, and this is going to be a Q&A later on, any questions in the chat for me or later on, you can always connect me on LinkedIn as well. I would love to actually talk more on ISIAQ mentorship, networking, anything that you're related. And yeah, let's see if we have anything on the chat. Let's see.
Hey, Rita, this is Andy.
Yes.
I had one direct message, I think probably both for you and Sarah. Somebody was interested about the matching of the mentors and what kind of items you guys consider. And maybe Sarah, that's at your event in Indoor Air 2024, and Rita with the ISIAQ mentorship. Specifically thinking about, do you match based on shared history, ethnicity? The question was on minorities. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. Sarah, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I tried my best with the questions that are part of the survey to not have too many because nobody wants to answer 20,000 questions. Race was not one of those questions. It was more questions about your field of expertise, who you were looking to connect with in terms of expertise, your career stage, what job sector you're interested in going into. And then there's also a column for, is there any other information you want to provide me, or is there a specific mentor that you would really like to be connected with? So I'm trying to balance answers from all of those questions to match people. I'm using some heuristic algorithms to kind of help do those matching. So it's not going to be perfect, but I'm hoping that I'll match you initially, and then you'll get a list of maybe 2 to 3 other potential mentors, and hopefully, one of those will work out for you. If not, hopefully those, 3 or so people will be able to maybe, as Andy said, there are connectors, so maybe one of those people will be able to connect you with somebody else that would be a good match. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit. And Rita, I'll let you answer.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. From ISIAQ end, we do have a database of the mentors that we can pair up with, but usually I like one of the responsibility of as a student representative is to help find a good match for you. It's like a dating app, but it's literally how I see exactly where your background is, where you're from, and exactly, and I see that, hey, is there anywhere that in this field that align with your expertise right here? And some of the time, the student will be very specific. Is this professor available as a mentors? They'll be very straightforward to me. And I will reach out to them saying that, hey, it is, and I can help you become that person to connect with him as well. And as Sarah mentioned, like this year, we're thinking of giving you several, it doesn't have to be one-on-one. A student can have several mentors as well, because come on, you got to have your minds open. Having multiple mentors are beneficial, as Sarah and Andy just mentioned. And yeah, like this is what ISIAQ does on our end. And hopefully if you guys have any suggestions on how this pairing you would like it to be done, let me know. And how will someone receive a survey for mentorship? When you actually sign up for ISIAQ, and they will ask you several questions as well. Not so many, at least I'm pretty sure it's around 4 or 5 questions only. And then based on that, it's all like your background informations, like what's your education level, like your master, PhD student, postdoc, or what's your degree in, and what's kind of like who are you interested in, and what is your background ethnicity. We do ask ethnicity as well, but that's kind of survey that ISIAQ does right here. All right. Hope that answered your questions. If there's anything else to actually share about at all.
Hey, Rita.
Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned to be part of the mentorship, you had to be a member of ISIAQ, right? And I know if you sign up for Indoor Air 2024, you automatically become a member. Yes. Do you know what the cost is if you're not going to Indoor Air 2024 for students? I think it's pretty low.
$30. 35. Yeah, as a students, you get a very good rate for that. Yeah, $30. There we go.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
And I got a message as well, Andy, this is for you. can you maybe elaborate a little bit on who's on your career panel?
I cannot. I wish I could. We have several people. I don't want to say any names yet because I reached out to them, but I have one or two representatives from each of the academia, government, nonprofit, and industry. But since they haven't signed up yet, I can't. I tried to choose individuals that are fairly well known, but I also have some more early career so they can provide a different perspective.
Yeah, I also have questions for Andy as well on the job poster sessions. I'm pretty sure that students will actually have fun actually presenting their work and resume. What kind of who will be attending as an employer side? Do we know anyone that's actually going? Some examples who will be attending from industry or government.
Good question. I think there's a number of people. I haven't seen the full list. As of about 3 weeks ago, we had 700 individuals, and many of those are looking to hire. If you're in the somebody like Sarah as a professor and looking for other people to help, I'm on the government side. I'm always looking for interested people in the organization to help out. And so I think there would be a number of people is our hope. And this, as mentioned, it's been done in other conferences. It's our first time for this indoor air conference to have this job fair. It's usually in the past when I've seen it in other conferences, it's been pretty successful. And so you want to make sure you put your name out there, and this is just one opportunity to do it.
Thank you so much, Andy. All right. Any other questions right there? If not, I can share some of my experience. I know that I haven't actually introduced myself, but I met Sarah and Andy a year ago while I was still a student. I graduated a year ago from a Master of Applied Science degree, but my bachelor was actually in microbiology. My master was in biomedical engineering. And a year ago, I was looking for jobs and I was unemployed for 6 months. It's okay. I mean, COVID just ended and I was literally looking for mentors to help me connect with job opportunities or PhD opportunities, and landed right now as air quality scientist at an environmental engineering consulting company. And it's just mind-blowing of how diverse our field is. As Sarah briefly mentioned as well, it's like we covered a lot of things from air monitoring, air samplings, and with governments, it's a vast different field that we're actually talking about. But I was lucky to actually land a job without any connections at the end or referrals. But throughout this process, I was desperately looking for mentors to help me guide through this process because I was changing the field. I was a microbiologist, right? And but eventually I did by talking to more people, and I found this company from one of my friends, and that actually helps. So I can definitely feel that what exactly Andy and Sarah shared, those tips are super helpful in terms of, especially when you graduate or when you decide to have a career change. And I think also there's I have a question for Andy as well. I'm very curious. And one of the tips, and for both Sarah and Andy, most likely, both of you mentioned that and recommend mentorship outside your primary field. So I know that Andy has a very interesting background. You were in the Air Force for 21 years, and I'm pretty sure you have a lot of story to tell in this transitions. So perhaps you want to share a little bit on that, and so it can help people understand how your mentorship helps you with all your career path right here.
Sure, I can give some, but I think as an engineer, I think, and I've been trained to think a certain way. I have this logical flow that one thing leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing, and sometimes I can get in the mindset that must be how everybody thinks, and really it's not, right? There's a lot of different thinkers. So especially with the thinking about the mentorships I've had in the social sciences, so psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, these people work a lot differently and their problems are a lot different than an engineering problem, which is um, so just different. So to have their perspective and how they go about things, even as they go about daily things in life, is very different than an engineer does. And so I really appreciate having that. And then from the Air Force side, I've been mentored everywhere from medical professionals to fighter pilots. And again, seeing how people go about problems is really helpful to me, and how they find solutions, how they work with other people, how they succeed. And you can pull some of that, and I think it's important to pull some of that and really kind of help you grow. Turn it over to Sarah for her thoughts.
Yeah, my background is not nearly as exciting as Andy's. So I was also a microbiologist like Rita, and then did a PhD in environmental engineering. So I actually went through that kind of training mindset change. Like microbiology is uh, the kind of training mindset is different to that of an engineer, as Andy just said. So I went through that transition, and I was lucky, I had traditional kind of biology mentors, and then I have some great engineering mentors now. Um, like Andy, I have really been fascinated to learn that not everybody thinks like me, and it was a bit of a revelation. I remember attending a workshop where they actually got us to do a bunch of silly tasks, and we were kind of put into groups based on survey responses of how we actually process and do problem solving. And it blew my mind that people think about things in a very different way. And ever since then, I started to kind of realize and appreciate that everybody shouldn't think in the same way, and that's how we really solve problems. And some of my most favorite recent kind of interactions have actually been with artists. So these can either be media people, people who write books, people who think about visual presentation. Their way of communicating information to the public is very different to how people in our field think about doing that. And honestly, we're not the best at communicating to the public. So this has been the area I've really been enjoying learning about how can we communicate more effectively, not necessarily through traditional long reports, but thinking about ways that actually resonate with people better. So yeah, I would just say leverage not only your peers, but make sure you have peers in different areas, right? And likewise, think about your mentors in the same space. They might not be able to necessarily give you, domain or specific knowledge that's going to be useful, or helpful, but that may help you think about a problem or how to phrase something or how to present something that you might not historically get from people in your direct area.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah and Andy. Those are very good stories and tips right there. Really appreciate that. Right now we have no more questions, but all the webinars will be available openly after. Is there anyone that would like to share their stories of where was your mentors or mentees? Feel free to do so and interact with us. We have a few more minutes for the ground to be open. You can raise your hands and unmute yourself if you want to. Perfect. I think everybody's a little bit shy at a 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning. Right there. Perfect. Right. I think we can end this webinar a little bit early if we want to. Feel free to connect with any of us. Our emails are showing in the chat box right here. Connect with me on LinkedIn, email me if you want it, and the recording will be available. And I'll post every details as well on every information will be available on the ISIAQ website as well. And I think, yes, if you have any questions, yes, just let us know. And thank you so much for joining us. Let's have the ending slide right here. And yeah, see you in Indoor Air 2024. Perfect. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.